Okay, so let's say it's the night before a big exam. You're staring at all these notes, feeling that like wave of panic.
Yeah.
But you are definitely not alone. We've all been there. So today we are doing a deep dive into this YouTuber. It's Simona Squared. And she says she's like cracked the code of last minute exam prep. Now, her style it's kind of quirky and relatable. She's not like a professor or anything, but her advice is surprisingly insightful.
Yeah, I think what makes Simona Squared so interesting is, well, she's clearly been there herself. You know, she understands that overwhelmed feeling. And she offers these really practical solutions from a student's perspective.
Exactly. So she starts by like tackling this dilemma we all have of like,
Right.
where do I even begin when you're like short on time? And her first tip is to systematically conquer the syllabus.
Right. It's a classic strategy.
Hmm.
But she adds this twist with her color coding system. So like red for I have no clue, orange for needs work, and green for good to go.
I love that. It's like visual, like a quick triage for your knowledge.
Exactly. And this prioritization, this isn't just for exams either. It's like a valuable tool. Time management, any project you know, multiple tasks. By like quickly seeing, okay, this is a strength, this is a weakness, you can just focus your energy where it matters most.
That is so true. It reminds me of that, the 80-20 rule, where 80% of your results come from 20% of your effort. So instead of getting lost in the weeds of topics you already know, you can like laser focus on those red zones.
Exactly. And speaking of focusing, Simone's next tip, might make you laugh at first. She's a big believer
Right.
in the power of repetition. And she shows this. By repeatedly chanting, the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell.
I know. It's definitely an image that sticks with you. But beyond the humor, is there any science behind this?
Absolutely. Repetition is like, it's a fundamental learning principle. It helps to like create
Yeah.
stronger neural connections, make it easier to remember stuff later. So chanting might not be for everyone, but the core idea is to find what works for you. In terms of like reinforcing those key concepts.
So even if you don't have time to memorize everything, picking out those crucial definitions or formulas and repeating them, even if it feels a bit silly, can actually help them stick.
Yeah, and while chanting can be helpful, some learners find it distracting for them, like visualizing concepts or creating mind maps might be more effective. It all comes down to understanding your own learning style.
It's a great point. And speaking of different approaches, Simone is a huge advocate for practice questions over passively rereading notes.
Yeah, I find it fascinating how she emphasizes active learning over passive absorption. It's one thing to recognize information when you see it in your notes, but it's quite another to retrieve it from memory and apply it in different contexts.
The difference between reading about how to ride a bike
Yeah.
and actually getting on one
Yeah.
and trying to balance, you need that hands-on experience to really master a skill.
Exactly. And practice questions force you to retrieve that information from your memory, strengthening those connections and making it more likely. You'll be able to remember it during the exam.
Simone also has some surprising advice. For those precious hours before bedtime, she recommends giving your notes a quick read-through right before bed.
Interesting. There's actually some science behind that. This taps into memory consolidation during sleep. So while you're sleeping, your brain is busy processing and storing information you've encountered throughout the day.
So even if you only have a few minutes before drifting off, skimming those keynotes could give your brain a head start on that memory-making process.
Exactly. It's like planting seeds in your mind and letting sleep act as the fertilizer. And this connects to another memory principle, the recency effect. The information we learn last tends to stick with us more readily, at least in the short term.
Which makes those pre-sleep study sessions even more valuable. You're essentially giving those crucial concepts a last-minute boost before your brain gets to work, solidifying them overnight.
Now, while we're on the topic of time, Simone shares a rather quirky tip for those who struggle with procrastination.
Oh, yeah. This one is a bit out there. She actually changes the time on all her devices, phone, laptop, you name it.
I know it might seem unconventional, but there's a psychological basis. By like manipulating her perception of time, she creates a sense of urgency and avoids that, oh no, it's already this light spiral.
I've tried that time-changing trick myself, and I have to admit, it is surprisingly effective, at least until I realize I've missed an important appointment.
Right. It's about creating this like time-bending bubble where you can fully immerse yourself in the study zone. But it's important to remember, this is just a temporary fix. The real key is to develop healthy study habits and time management skills.
Good point. Simone also mentions other motivational techniques, like listening to motivational speeches or binaural beats to get in the zone.
Right. For those unfamiliar with binaural beats, they're auditory illusions created by playing slightly different frequencies in each ear. Some people believe they can help with focus and relaxation.
So it's all about experimenting and finding what works best for you in terms of staying focused and motivated.
Exactly. And that brings us to one of the most unexpected parts of Simone's video, her emphasis on the mind-body connection, particularly the importance of the root chakra.
Wait, root chakra, I wasn't expecting that from a last-minute study video.
Yeah, well, Simone believes that exam stress can really throw our root chakra out of balance.
Okay. For those of us who aren't familiar with chakras, could you give us a quick explanation?
Sure. Think of chakras as energy centers within our bodies. The root chakra, located at the base of the spine, is believed to govern our sense of stability and security. When it's balanced, we feel grounded and confident, which can be crucial for effective learning.
So if you're feeling stressed, anxious, or just plain overwhelmed, your root chakra might be taking a hit.
Exactly. And when our root chakra is out of balance, it can impact our mental clarity and focus, which are essential for effective studying.
That makes sense. So what does Simone recommend for getting that root chakra back in alignment?
She incorporates yoga and meditation into her study routine, specifically practices that target the root chakra. Even a few minutes of conscious breathing or some grounding yoga poses can make a difference when you're feeling overwhelmed.
I find it fascinating how she connects seemingly unrelated concepts like time management and spirituality into a cohesive approach to exam preparation.
It speaks to the fact that we're not just brains in jars, we're complex beings with physical, mental, and emotional needs that all play a role in our ability to learn and perform at our best.
So it's not just about cramming information into your brain. It's about taking care of your whole self, mind, body, and energy.
Absolutely. And sometimes a little self-care can be the most effective study strategy of all.
I think it's refreshing to see someone like Simone acknowledge the emotional roller coaster that comes with exam prep. You know she doesn't shy away from sharing her own anxieties and moments of doubt.
Right. There's a part where she talks about feeling the pressure and those what if I fail thoughts creeping in. It's so relatable. Yeah. And instead of trying to suppress those feelings, she just embraces them. There's a point where she says, if I fail, I fail. And what about it? It's almost like a playful defiance of the pressure to be perfect.
Yeah. It's like she's giving herself permission to be imperfect, which can be so liberating, so especially in high-pressure situations like exams.
Right. It's a reminder that our worth isn't tied to our academic performance.
Yeah.
Failing an exam doesn't mean we failed as human beings.
I think that's such an important message for students to hear. It's easy to get caught up in the pressure to succeed, and sometimes we forget to be kind to ourselves.
Absolutely. And this ties into the idea of a growth mindset, where challenges are seen as opportunities for learning and development, rather than threats to our self-worth.
Simone's willingness to experiment with different study methods also reflects this growth mindset. She tries out flashcards, reads her notes aloud, and even tries to create a memory palace, all with a sense of curiosity and playfulness.
Her approach highlights that there's no one-size-fits-all method for studying. It's all about finding what resonates with your learning style and preferences.
And that might involve some trial and error. It's like finding a recipe that works for you. You might need to adjust the ingredients or the cooking time until you get it just right.
Exactly. And that experimentation can actually make learning more engaging and enjoyable.
Speaking of finding what works, Simone talks about using a technique called the Pomodoro method to structure her study time. Have you ever tried that?
I have. It's a time management technique that involves working in focused intervals, usually 25 minutes, followed by a short break. Simone modifies it slightly. She studies for 90 minutes, then takes a 15-minute break. The key is finding a rhythm that balances intense focus with periods of rest.
Makes sense. Our brains need time to process information and make connections. Trying to power through for hours can actually be counterproductive.
Right. It's like running a marathon. You wouldn't expect to sprint the entire distance. You need to pace yourself, take breaks, fuel your body along the way.
And those breaks don't have to be passive. You can use them to stretch, grab a healthy snack, or even just step outside for a few minutes to get some fresh air.
Absolutely. Even a short break can help to clear your head, reduce stress, and boost your energy levels.
Speaking of fuel, Simone gives us a glimpse into her study snack preferences, which I have to admit are a bit questionable. There's a scene where she's trying to microwave a frozen meal. That looks well, let's just say. It doesn't go as planned.
It's a good reminder that even with the best study plans, Things don't always go perfectly.
Right. And it highlights the importance of nourishing your body with healthy foods, especially when you're demanding so much from your brain.
Think of it this way. Would you put low-grade fuel in a high-performance car?
Of course not.
You want to give your brain the best possible fuel to perform at its peak.
So ditch the sugary snacks and energy drinks and opt for brain-boosting foods like fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds.
And don't forget to stay hydrated. Water is essential for all cognitive functions.
Back to Simone's study journey. There's a point where she decides to shake things up and take her studying on the road. She heads to a local coffee shop, hoping a change of scenery will boost her focus.
I love that. She recognizes the importance of environment. Sometimes a change of scenery can do wonders for our productivity.
It's like hitting the refresh button on your brain. Plus, there's something about the ambient noise and energy of a coffee shop that can be conducive to studying.
It's about creating a separation between your study space and your relaxation space. This can help to signal to your brain that it's time to shift into study mode.
Simone tries out a few different study spots throughout the video, showing us that finding the right environment is a personal journey.
Exactly. What works for one person might not work for another. It's about experimenting and finding what feels most inspiring and conducive to focus for you.
As her study marathon continues, we see Simone grappling with fatigue, battling procrastination, searching for ways to maintain her motivation.
It's a testament to the mental and emotional stamina required to navigate these demanding academic challenges. It's natural to feel drained and tempted to give in to distractions.
But Simone demonstrates remarkable resilience, constantly finding ways to recharge and refocus.
It's like she's running a mental obstacle course. And with each obstacle, she discovers new reserves of strength and determination.
And in a rather unexpected turn of events, she turns to yoga for a much-needed energy boost.
It might seem counterintuitive to take time out for yoga when you're feeling pressured for time, but it actually aligns perfectly with what we've been discussing about the mind-body connection.
Right. She specifically mentions doing a root chakra meditation, which we talked about earlier. It's all about grounding yourself, finding stability, and reducing stress.
And when we're feeling grounded and centered, we're better equipped to handle the challenges that inevitably arise during intense study sessions.
It's a reminder that self-care isn't a luxury. It's an essential part of the learning process.
It's about treating ourselves with the same kindness and compassion that we would offer to a friend who's struggling.
As Simone's study marathon draws to a close, she takes a moment to reflect on the challenges she's faced, the lessons she's learned, and the strategies she's developed along the way.
It's a powerful moment of integration where she's piecing together the fragments of knowledge, insights, and experiences into a cohesive whole.
It's clear that she's not just going through the motions of studying. She's actively engaged in the process of learning and self-discovery.
It's a beautiful reminder that learning isn't just about acquiring information, it's about evolving as human beings.
And sometimes the most valuable lessons are learned not from textbooks, but from the messy, imperfect, and ultimately triumphant journey of figuring things out for ourselves.
Well said. And that brings us to the final moments of Simone's video, where she offers a heartfelt message of encouragement and inspiration to her viewers.
She reminds us that we're not alone in this journey, that there are countless others facing similar challenges, and that we can draw strength and inspiration from each other's stories.
It's a beautiful reminder of the power of community and the importance of supporting each other through the ups and downs of the learning process.
And that's a message that resonates far beyond the world of academics. It's a universal truth that applies to all of us, no matter what challenges we may face in life.
Absolutely. We all need connection, support, and encouragement, especially when we're pushing ourselves beyond our comfort zones.
It's like Simone's journey reminds us that learning it's more about embracing the adventure than reaching some destination. It's about those small wins, learning from when you mess up, and just constantly pushing yourself beyond what you think your limits are.
Yeah. Well, her videos about exam prep, the themes of resilience and self-belief, and the power of community, those resonate way beyond academics.
Absolutely. Those are life skills that can help all of us no matter what challenges we face.
Have you ever tackled a project that just seemed daunting at first? Maybe even overwhelming?
Oh, yeah, of course. I think we've all been there. Whether it's learning a new skill or starting some creative endeavor or even just facing a challenge at work or in your personal life.
And in those moments, it's so easy to get caught up in self-doubt and that fear of failure.
Simone's approach reminds us that it's okay to feel those things. You can acknowledge them
Yeah.
without letting them paralyze you.
Right. It's about shifting your perspective, viewing those challenges, not as roadblocks, but as opportunities for growth.
She's shown us that it's often in those moments of struggle, when we push ourselves, that we discover what we can really do.
It's like they say, the magic happens outside of your comfort zone.
Exactly. And Simone's video shows that. She stepped outside of her comfort zone, shared her vulnerabilities, and inspired tons of people.
Now, before we wrap up our deep dive, let's bring this back to you. We've explored Simone's strategies for last-minute exam prep, but we want to hear from you.
Yeah. What are your go-to techniques for staying focused and motivated and confident? When you have those exam week pressures, do you have any pre-exam rituals or secret study weapons that help you ace those tests?
We're always excited to learn from our listeners.
So head over to our social media and share your wisdom. Let's make a community of learners who can support each other and inspire each other to thrive in those high-stakes academic moments.
Remember, even if you're feeling overwhelmed right now, you have the power to choose resilience, to tap into your inner strength, and to create your own path to success.
So go out there and conquer those exams, knowing that you've got a whole community cheering you on. Until next time, stay curious, stay resilient, and keep on learning.